Before we step into today's story, pause for just a moment. If you're drawn to stories that don't rush, stories that breathe, that linger, that stay with you long after the screen goes dark, then take a second to support this channel. Tap the subscribe button, turn on notifications, and stay connected. Because the stories shared here aren't meant to be consumed quickly. They're meant to be felt. What you're about to hear doesn't explode into action. It doesn't demand your attention. It unfolds the way real moments do. Quietly, slowly, and with meaning hiding between the spaces. This is a story about stillness. About two people who exist under the same roof, yet live in different emotional worlds. About how silence can sometimes say more than words ever could. And about how, when the outside world finally slows down, the heart finds the courage to catch up. So take a breath, get comfortable, and let the rain guide us in. The rain had arrived long before the morning was fully awake. It didn't crash into the world with thunder or announce itself with urgency. There was no drama in its entrance. Instead, it slipped in gently, almost respectfully, thin streams tracing the edges of windows, soft droplets whispering against concrete and soil. It felt deliberate, as if it wasn't there to interrupt life, but to pause it. The house sat wrapped in a dim gray light, the kind that blurs the line between night and day. Shadows stretched lazily across walls that had grown accustomed to routine silence. The air felt heavier, thicker, as though time itself was uncertain about how fast it should move. Outside, the sky hung low and unmoving. Clouds pressed together like thoughts. No one wanted to speak aloud. Inside, everything felt suspended. Michael stood by the living room window, one shoulder resting against the cool glass. His reflection stared back at him, distorted, fractured by the rain sliding downward in uneven paths. He lifted a finger and traced one droplet as it merged with another, then raced downward, disappearing at the sill like it was escaping something unseen. For the first time in weeks, his chest didn't feel tight. There was something calming about watching water fall without purpose or pressure. No deadlines. No expectations. No urgency. Just motion and permission to move slowly. Earlier that morning, his father had left for a 3-day business trip. There was no long goodbye. No emotional speech. Just a soft knock on Michael's bedroom door. A brief hand resting on his shoulder. And a quiet reminder to behave. Then the front door closed. And with that sound, the house changed. Michael exhaled slowly, not realizing how much tension he'd been holding until it left him. Because now there were only two people left inside the house. Michael and Clara. She had been his stepmother for less than a year. Long enough to memorize schedules. Long enough to learn routines. Long enough to understand where not to step emotionally. But short enough that nothing between them had truly settled. Clara wasn't cruel. She wasn't cold. And she certainly wasn't the kind of stepmother people warn you about in stories. If anything, she was careful. Too careful. Every word she spoke felt measured. Every movement seemed intentional. As if she were constantly afraid that one wrong step might crack something fragile beneath her feet. They lived parallel lives under the same roof. Shared meals. Shared hallways. Shared mornings filled with polite nods and soft greetings. But the space between them always remained untouched. Not hostile. Not angry. Just thick, with things neither of them knew how to say. Michael didn't dislike her. But liking someone and knowing them were two very different things. And that morning, with the rain growing heavier and the house unusually quiet, that distance felt louder than ever. By mid-morning, the rain had deepened. Not violently. Not angrily, just persistently. Wind curled around the house, slipping through unseen gaps, brushing tree branches together until they groaned softly like tired old bones. The sky pressed down, heavy and unmoving, as if it had no intention of lifting anytime soon. Michael reached for his phone. No signal. He watched the Wi-Fi icon flicker once, then vanish. He sighed, letting the phone fall onto the couch beside him. So much for distraction, he muttered under his breath. Moments later, the lights flickered. Once. Twice. Then darkness. Not complete darkness, but that strange stormlit half-light where shadows stretch longer and familiar rooms feel suddenly unfamiliar. The house felt suspended between moments, caught somewhere between night and day. And then, laughter. Soft. Unexpected. Clara's laughter. Michael turned just as she appeared in the doorway, holding 2 mugs carefully in her hands. Steam curled upward, filling the dim room with warmth and the faint scent of cinnamon. "It looks like the universe decided we're stuck together today," she said gently. Her voice was lighter than usual. She handed him a mug. "There." Fingers brushed. Just briefly. Neither of them mentioned it. "Thanks," Michael said, surprised by how heavy such a small gesture felt. Clara settled onto the couch across from him, pulling a blanket around her shoulders. Without the bright lights and her usual composed posture, she seemed different. Smaller. Softer. More real. The version of her Michael was used to, the careful one, the guarded one, had faded with the power outage. In her place sat someone quietly human. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The rain filled the silence, tapping steadily against the windows, as if keeping time for something neither of them had rehearsed. "I used to love days like this," Clara said finally, her eyes following the movement of water outside. "When I was your age, I'd sit by the window for hours with a book. The world felt safer when it slowed down." Her voice wasn't careful this time. It was honest. Michael nodded slowly. "I like the quiet too," he admitted. "It makes everything feel less demanding." And just like that, something shifted. The silence between them no longer felt awkward. It felt shared.